will explore the potential for enhanced research cooperation between the Philippines and Indonesia in the creative economy. By leveraging the academic and research strengths of both countries, the session aims to identify collaborative opportunities that can drive innovation, inform policy, and support the growth of creative industries. This session will serve as a platform for researchers, policymakers, and industry leaders to discuss the future of research partnerships and their role in shaping the creative economy. Let me introduce our panel of experts. Experts, may I request you to come to the stage and take your place in the panel once your name is called. Our first panelist is an energetic educator and administrator and has been with the De La Salle College of St. Benilde for over 20 years, serving different roles. He was instrumental for introducing innovative courses such as the Bachelor of Science in Information Technology, major in Game Design and Development, a first in Philippine education. Let's call to the stage Chancellor Ben-Hur Ong. Our next panelist leads a team that works on forward-thinking policy recommendation across human resources and institutions, industry and investment, marketing strategies, digital economy, and creative products. The Director of Strategic Review of the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, the Republic of Indonesia, let's welcome Ms. Agustini Rahayu. Our next expert is affiliated with Master of Management Program, Department of Management, Faculty of Economics, and Business Universitas Indonesia. She earned her MBA degree from the University of the Philippines. She also obtained a Master of Science and Doctor in Industrial and Organizational Psychology from Universitas Indonesia. Her research and work focus on leadership and cultural values, quality of life among senior workers, cyber behavior in the workplace, and sustainable creative tourism. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Yanki Hartiasti. Our fourth expert was a part of our previous panel and needs no further introduction. Let's welcome once again Mr. Jonathan Tan. Our last panel expert is the first Filipina country director of the British Council in the Philippines. She's an education specialist who has worked extensively in and with government, regional and international cultural relations organizations on national, bilateral, and regional projects. Prior to her current leadership role, she also led the British Council's education work, where she pioneered collaborations between the Philippines and UK on transnational education program through partnership with the Commission on Higher Education. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Lotus Postrado. Experts, your moderator is Assistant Director of the Bureau of Competitive Development of the Creative Industries Development Office, Assistant Director Jodan Darong. JD, you have the floor.
Everybody. Ayan. So I will not miss to start this without mentioning our colleague from the Philippine Statistics Authority. We have with us Gerald June Clarino. Please join us here. The conversation will not be complete when research meets statistics. Do you agree? Okay. So please join us, Sir Gerald. Modesty aside, I was really thrilled to host this, but when I saw the lineup of speakers, medyo natakot po ako. But then, to see familiar, beautiful faces from the audience, kaway-kaway po tayo, palakpak ko. If you're part of that bunch of intellectual, beautiful people, then I had the energy to sustain the afternoon as your moderator. But I just want to inform everybody that we are live back in the RTVM, or Radio Television Malacanang Network. We are actually on live, and thanks to the Presidential Communications Office. Because we are not only hearing the stories in the room, but we're also getting some comments from from the live feed. And they're enjoying the conversation in the first panel as we bring joy and celebrating the uniqueness and the similarities of the Philippines and Indonesia. At this point, you know, this is a fun-filled bunch of intellectual people championing our Philippine and Indonesia creative ecosystem. So we'll start with Chancellor Ben-Hur to kickstart the conversation. Can I have a round of applause for College of St. Benil Chancellor, no other than Chancellor Ben-Hur Ung.
So good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned by our moderator, I come from De La Salle College of St. Benil. I'm just going to show you a few slides of who we are, just in case you don't know, we are not familiar with what we do. The College of St. Benil is actually composed of actually 9 schools, and I just chose to focus on the School for Design, School for Environment and Design, the School for New Media Arts, and I will show you them later. And of course, the others that are really related to this particular area. But in terms of creative industries, there are other schools under the college that are actually in that field. For example, we have a School for Management and Information Technology. I think it was mentioned earlier that we had the first game and design development program in the country. So that's under the School of Management and IT. And we also have the School for Hotel Restaurant Institute Management that also focuses on the culinary side. So those things gives the college a lot of experience or a lot of exposure to the creatives industries. So as I mentioned earlier, I will just focus on 3 schools. The first one being the school for, across these 3 schools are very, very arts-related programs. So if you can get the next, sorry, it's in a PDF file. We're talking about the School for Environment and Design, which houses our programs for architecture, industrial design, interior design, fashion design and merchandising, and textile design.
Chancellor, they are here?
Huh?
Some of the students?
Some of our students are from...
Can I have a round of applause for our students?
Yes,
These are the next and the future Filipino creatives.
Our students from the Arts Management Program or the newly rebranded Creative Industries Management Program are here with us. Thank you for joining us, team. We appreciate it. So they're not of this school, but you will see your names later. So the School of Environment and Design, this is actually where our architects, future interior designers, our industrial designers are there. So next slide, please. So at least I'll try to make this really, really short. So SED tackles the curriculum focus on the complementary relationship of humans and the environment. So basically, ito po yung ginagawa. This is what they're doing. And again, very, very arts related. And you're trying to find the fusion between science and, of course, the arts in terms of design. Yun po. So next slide. This is actually our partnerships. We partner strongly with, of course, academe and industry and government. If you notice, DOST is one of our strongest partners. And of course, we have our own student organizations. This is examples of what we have been doing. So at Benil, we try to more or less expose our students to real world problems. And we work, a majority of our faculty are industry practitioners. So next slide, please, so we can go through this quickly. The next one is really the School for New Media Arts, where we have our animation guys, our multimedia arts guys, photography, and film. Mark, so I see a lot of old friends here in this conference. So this particular school handles the digital arts. So halo-halo po sila. It's a conglomerate. Everybody started from multimedia arts, and as we went along, we they graduated into full degree programs. So next slide. So this is what our students have been doing. Pioneer institution in new media revolution of the Philippines. Benil's own School of New Media Arts in the holistic learning of student skills in developing world-class outputs through the new mediums of the digital age. Yun po. So I think the major twist there is that what we've done is that we now accepted that technology, this is around 15 years ago, we already accepted that technology is just a medium. We have to focus on art creation. I think that's one of the more impactful insights that we had 15 years ago when we started this program. So yun po, next slide. I'm just going to go quickly. These are our partners, both international and local. We're very, very active with ACPI, ACPI. We're also very active during the creation of the...
They're also here?
ACPI? Oh,
yes.
Hello, ma'am. Hindi ko pa nakita. Thank you, ma'am. Sayang hindi nyo kasama si Dan. But Dan is one of our faculty members, very, very involved with ACPI. But again, same concept. Everybody, we have a big number of faculty members from the industry to make sure that we are teaching the correct content. Yan, yun po. So next slide. This is the last school. This is where these guys are. So now you have the School for Arts and Culture and Performance. So you have dyan po yung arts management or creative industries management. You have music production, you have dance, you have production design, theater arts, and fine arts and culture-based arts. There are programs here that really relate to what we're trying to do now. Now, if you look at fine arts and culture-based arts, that's actually trying to preserve our heritage. So, and we're also trying to, sorry for the term, monetize. Kasi minsan, that's actually one of the difficulties. Yes, we are artists, but BINILD has been actively trying to say that, hey, it's no longer a starving artist environment. There is really money in the arts, and we've been advocating that for the last 10, 15 years. And now we are very, very happy because PCIDA, or the Philippine Creative Industries Development Act, has passed into law. And that we are very happy because it's not only BINILD now. Now the program is now being rolled out across the nation. So BINILD has a lot of activities in that kasi PCIDA, that's a very, very big undertaking. And we have a lot of faculty members heavily involved in separate areas. As I mentioned, Dan is in ECPI. One of our faculty members, Marga Marti, is also in the culinary area. So we have a lot of faculty members helping out in this initiative because Siyempre, we also have our vested interest, di ba? We have a school. We have a number of schools that are heavily invested in this area. So yun po, in a nutshell.
Can we have a round of applause for Sir Chancellor? It gives us an idea of how strong academe and industry could partner each other for pursuit of creative industry development and whatever agenda. But then there's one thing that we can get from that while we balance the preserving and conserving the expression of artistry and creativity, but we have to also be sustainable economically and financially throughout the process. Thank you very much. We have with us from the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, no other than Director Ayu. Please share your thoughts and your work in the area.
Thank you. And yeah, I would like to introduce my ministry first. Before Pak Ricky Pasik in the panel, the first panel has already shared about all the macro perspective about creative economy, Indonesia creative economy. While in my division, especially in our ministry, we have a research division, especially for all research regarding tourism and creative economy. And I would like to share about what we do on this research. Actually, it's not an academic research actually, because we start from the end. What I mean with start from the end is actually Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy has pentahelix collaboration system that we are that we are communicating regularly with a lot of stakeholders, related stakeholders. The pentahelix, collaboration here is actually the collaboration that really communicate all the needs from the industries, the creative economy industries. Pak Ricky has already conveyed that creative economy is actually unusual economy activities, right? So something that really creative. So here, the research took a lot of useful steps. Yeah, for our strategic research, actually we communicate with the industry what the industry needs. So what is the dynamic of the industry? So in this research, we do the strategic review first. And then the circling, the circling process come into the innovation at the end, actually. So, yeah. So the pentahelix is actually the collaboration between 5 main player, actually. So yeah, the government, academician, up to the media person. So you said that we are covered by the media, right? So one of our pentahelix in creative economy as well as tourism is actually the stakeholders is government to government, like what we can do with Philippine government, and then academician. You can see here the community as well, because creative economy here is sometimes raised from the grassroots. Is it correct, Pak Ricky? Yeah, so that's our current landscape actually. So basically, driving a striving community, Indonesia creative economy has been a steady upward trajectory. You know, in pandemic era, there's a lot of industry that really experience big loss, including tourism business. But creative economy sector surprisingly have a very good growth at that time during pandemic, because the digital transformation accelerating, and then the creative ideas of community, and also all the creative ideas amidst people movement constraint at that time. So while the other industry is declining, creative economy for the past 5 years, you can see here, thriving. Yeah, so it's very good. The creative industry value added trend over the past 5 years have highlighted its persistent strength, as you can see here. While many industry, slowing down, it become more strong. And the sector value added reached half of this year's target, has already achieved half of the target this year only. So it's around 48 billion US dollar, and contributing approximately almost 7% of the national economy. So it's very big and promising future that we have in creative economy. Why I have to going through all the data here, because again, for the research or strategic review, we have to have a data-driven research. Therefore, we can have the data-driven policy making. So it couldn't go wrong with that. And then I would like to share how the strategic review and study insight into action. Yeah, turning insight, the strategic insight, into action. This is the challenging problem or issues that raised in the first panel, right? How to turn insight into action. So the insight, the data is there, but how to make this into action and implement very carefully and on the right target. So here, the strategic review and study that we make is actually consists of 3 pillars that maybe in the academic research is almost the same, but the formulation, the designing, the overview, a little bit different because we have pentahelix collaboration here, right? So we design our research agenda to meet the both for internal sector in the ministry itself and also the related ministries, as well as for the industries. And we are ensuring that our findings are highly relevant and impactful. Otherwise, all the studies, just useless. So research findings set the groundwork for formulating strategies policy within the ministry and give a framework for designing effective and impactful action plan across various stakeholders. So, and also we have disseminating our finding through multiple channels, because once again, every review, every research will be useless if you cannot disseminating through the public or the the stakeholders that really need it. So we put a lot of effort to build a digital platform that consists of all the research findings, including through audio-visual media. Because there's a lot of people, including me, that cannot, read, doesn't have time to read a lot of, policy brief, very thick research and all. So we create audio-visual media so people can, all the infographic and brief policy, policy brief, the very short policy note, so people, could have a faster absorption about what we research. Yeah, and then about policy making, finally, I would like to highlight our journey over the past 5 years in promoting research-driven policy making for creative economy. Yeah, here you can see, when the pandemic hit, our primary focus is actually assessing the damage and formulating strategies to aid the industry recovery and adaptation in 2020. Yeah, we are focusing on that issues. And then over the next 2 years, we concentrated our effort on accelerating those process. And now, our priorities are addressing emerging issues because both, both sector, tourism and creative economy, is a very dynamic industry, right? So the issues is very dynamic, so we are addressing emerging issues and advancing key creative industries, such as gastronomy, and also what we already discussed in the first panel, character-based IP industry. So we also, annually, we also have published a tourism and creative economy outlook. Annually, we produce those outlook, which address short-term strategic issues and trend, offering valuable insight for stakeholders. And with that, I'm excited to dive into today's discussion.
Yes, so Director Ayu has just brought us the insider's perspective of how the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy have been doing a lot of things, but trying to make sure that outsiders' perspective through the Pentahelix framework are being done. So good job from there. So we have from the academic industry collaboration down to the Pentahelix. Sir Jonathan, you mentioned this morning quite an interesting perspective, and you see focus of the traditional CCIs and the tech-savvy CCIs, and I jot that down because it's so interesting to move forward, but trying to, in the face of innovation, you'll still be able to make sure that no one is left behind in terms of the traditional CCIs, and you focus on market development, product development, and talent development. What else you would like to share to the rest of the members of this roundtable, Mr. Jonathan?
Thank you once again for having me back on stage. I think given that this session focused on research, I have a deck of slides as well.
Yeah.
If I can
We're
just
having
ask
a
you to
neck problem on the stage, but please bear with us as we pull up the slides. So we'll try to keep this cool.
Yeah.
Sir Jonathan, you proceed now. You have the presentation.
All right, thank you very much. So 3 years ago, ASEAN, worked towards defining a definition on the ASEAN creative economy. I think I will need the gentleman to bring up the slide with the definition because I couldn't remember everything that is up
when
there.
we talk about definition, every single word is very important, so you have to pull it
right.
up.
Yeah.
One moment, the team will. Maybe
But
you could
what
describe for a
yes,
minute
yeah.
the salient features of the definition while we're pulling up the slide.
I'll try my best to do so. But what in this definition that we came up with, it doesn't really deviate much from what has already been defined out there. Say, for example, by DCMS UK, right? Or for example, by the UNCTAD, and of course, other scholars like John Hawkins and all that. Next slide, please. So if you look at the definition itself, it doesn't really deviate much from that, except that I want to highlight a couple of things there. We actually emphasize on development, production, consumption, and all that. But one thing that I think after this definition has been adopted as a working definition, I have been actually getting very varying feedback from some experts. So for example, if you look at this definition itself, we have also included science and technology in the definition. And this certainly has implications for how we are going to approach the creative economy, not just in terms of definition, of course, but in terms of the development. As you are probably aware, the UK DCMS also has defined, has also included in the category science and technology in the sense of software and programming and all that. And I think in 2 out of the 10 ASEAN member states, they have also have this category on programming and software as well. And I'm not just talking about gaming, but really primarily on software and programming. And I think that is a challenge because having that in the definition, it means 2 things. One is that there's implications for the cultural and the creative, in particular the culture and art sector. In some ways, you are actually leading to a potential undervaluation and underinvestment in the culture and art sector. Because if you look at any data being churned out where programming and software are being categorized, they probably will take up more than 40% of the entire contributions to the creative economy. And in doing so, you are creating a narrative that may just undermine valuation and investment into the culture and art sector. That's for one. 2 is, of course, that doing so, you are also going to skew the data analysis and, of course, the comparative analysis when you have to actually do the data generation analysis across the region. So I think that's where the challenge is. And the other challenge, this is also from experts that I've consulted, is that if you look at this definition, it's very Western-centric, right? It's nothing that really address very unique developments, tropical developments in the region itself. And therein also lie the fact that, we have not been able to break away from a more Western knowledge frame of how we approach the efforts in promoting creative economy. I think that's really a challenge. Moving to the next slide. And I have to say this, as what I said earlier this morning, is like the creative economy holds great potential for ASEAN, but it's actually everywhere but nowhere. We are nowhere near in realizing its potential. And I think that's where the real challenge is. Also partly because that creative economy speaks to multiple policy areas. Nobody is coming up to own it, right? And I think that is really the issue, not just at the regional level, at the national level as well. But of course, on the flip side of that is that once you have a ministry or line agency owning it, but by virtue that it speaks to multiple policy areas, that agency or the line ministry is going to have trouble as well, unless they are able to engage very effectively with other line agencies and ministries in being able to sustain the efforts in promoting the creative economy. Next slide. And I think, in terms of the challenges here, I think that's something that some of the speakers have also mentioned early this morning as well. It's really the lack of clarity. Lack of data is one thing, but really the lack of clarity in terms of defining the concept and the contribution of the cultural and creative enterprises for the creative economy. And then, of course, there is also the lack of ability for us to be able to compare the data, because everyone is defining the subsectors of the creative economy quite differently, at least across the region of the 10 ASEAN member states. And eventually, when Timor-Leste is going to join us, we are going to have 11 data sets to deal with. Yeah. Next slide. And I would say that at the bilateral level, I think it might be useful for you to consider how you want to create the baseline data. And I heard this morning that WIPO is really working with the Philippines to come out with the data tracking. And this is something that we are also trying to work on it at the regional level to come up with a regional index to track the performance across all the 10 ASEAN member states. Yeah. And I think the second point I want to make here is that really that there's a need to also create better interfaces with research outfits and networks out there. I think some of the research outfits and networks are doing great job in trying to come out with the research analysis and data analysis on the creative economy. I think from the Indonesia, we know that Ibu Tita is leading the efforts in that regard, setting up a network to do so, bring together the research outfits from the 10 member states. And I think I have to make a selfish point here because coming from supporting the cultural body at the regional level, we would like to advocate a culture-centric approach towards the promotion of the development in creative economy. I think this is very important because where we talk about the creative economy, I think there's always this risk that we are always talking about how it's about the economic contributions, sometimes neglecting the social, sustainable developmental aspects. And I think this is something that we want to advocate very strongly. Next slide. And I think that's my final slide. So what are we doing at the regional level? I think right now, of course, Philippines is coming up with the proposal to set up a working group. From the ASEAN Secretariat perspective, I think that is a very good positive development if that is ever going to materialize. What we are also trying to do here is that this is still subject to, at least for the first one on the sustainability framework development, it's something that is still under discussions, but I'm getting strong support from Malaysia, who is our incoming chair for the culture and the arts. And the idea of this framework really serves two purposes. One is that this framework, we are going to look at 4 critical quadrants. One is on cultural outcomes, economic outcomes, environmental outcome, and social outcomes. So we are hoping that through this framework, we can identify what are the desired outcomes that we can be looking at, if you like, indicators as well for regional cooperation. And the second reason for doing this is also for strategic purpose. Should the working group fail to materialize, we are hoping that this framework itself would serve as a further momentum to generate conversations among the different sectors in ASEAN and being able to use this to bridge the differences and the different agendas amongst the different sectors, among the ASEAN social cultural community pillar as well as the economic community pillar. The other thing we are trying to do right now is a perception survey. This will be released sometime in perhaps late September, if not October. We are working with the UK through the British Council, who is underwriting this for us. We have come up with a set of questionnaire that 2 questionnaires essentially, one for the public and one for creative makers and associations and related industries. And we want to just gauge the state of play of the creative economy development in this region. So we call it a perception poll because I want to underline that this is not totally fully evidence-based, but we want to capture the sentiments, the opinions and views of creative makers and public in this area. Yeah. So with that, thank you very much.
Yeah, can we have a round of applause for Mr. Jonathan? We have progressed our conversation from an institution championing game animation and all sorts of fashion and arts, and now we see how Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy has been working hand in hand with the Pentahelix framework. We're now deep diving to the 3 major ideas that was brought to us by Sir Jonathan is actually the value of data, the value of culture, and the way we see sustainability in all of this conversation. Now we need to hear from Dr. Yankee, who is Filipina and an Indonesian by heart. We were discussing this a while back about storytelling, and then Director Ayo said, "Oh, story selling is also part of the conversation." But she's in the Faculty of Business and Economics, but she has a lot to say, being a tourism professor and a professor for tourism, and doing some research work in the Universitas de Indonesia. And now a round of applause for Dr. Yankee.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Filipino ako. Okay, so to correct you, traveling professor. So I used to be a practitioner, but now I'm a lecturer. So that's why what I'm going to share with you is a mixture of me being a traveling and a practitioner and also academician. So this is based on the research, the academician research, and also what I observe. Yeah. So before I have a slide, but now since I gathered, I observe everything, so I put a lot of thing in this paper. So from the education, before I go to the storytelling or the storytelling, yeah. So in the educational and research part is that we like to do the link and match, yeah. So we want to, what we call that, not only the theory, but also how to do the field experience, yeah, because if you don't go to experience that, it's very hard. But we, most of us are still lacking of that link and match, yeah. We like to do more on the theory, and then maybe the student also very lazy to dive in the field, yeah. So we still lack of on that area. And then the researcher itself, that we are now being forced to publish, scopus. Oh my God. So sometimes the contribution is not really impactful to the community. Yeah, that's why that's also the challenge of us. Yeah, and then another thing is that this is very important, not only in Indonesia, but for sure in the Philippines, in the leadership side, yeah, because we are in a high power distant society in which that those who are on top, we should respect them, and sometimes we cannot disobey them, yeah. So if the leader, because leader, according to research, it can enhance or it can also hinder the creativity and innovation which is needed in the creative economy, right? So if the leader is not committed, so it can hinder the contribution to the community, yeah. And then in relation to Pak Ricky before, they said that about the inter-institution and intergovernment relation. Usually, we lack of coordination between the institution. We have silo mindset, yeah. So it's very hard. Once we just think about our department, our institution, yeah. That's also another challenge, because in Asia, if you don't trust each other, it's very hard, yeah. Because we are collectivism culture. So if I know you, then I trust you. If I don't know you, I don't trust you. Even though we are in the same organization, that's part of the challenge also, yeah. And then the local government, because I'm not only talking about the government, the central government, but also the local government, because they are the one near the people, right? The local government, sometimes they don't know the concept itself, the creative economy concept. They lack of concept, and usually they are not there all the time. So once they change the leader, they change the policy. That's why it's the Filipino also, because I studied in the Philippines. So, yeah, so it's really similar, yeah. And then, of course, infrastructure, and then promotion, the expertise sharing. Even though the local government give the workshop, etc., usually they use very, very difficult term. It's not understood by the local community. It's so hard. The community, they just want the implementation, not the terms, because theory is very hard to apply, yeah. And then another thing is that the policy, it's not trickled down, because maybe the miscommunication, and also there's vested interest, and nowadays a political issue, etc. So there are so many challenges. But don't forget that during pandemic, everything is going up, right? That means we need pressure. When we have the pressure, we have the pandemic, everybody is very creative. So we should create some pressure, yeah, for this creative economy, because or else it's just going as is. It's just status quo, yeah. It's the innovation is not that good, yeah. I'm also part of the jury member in the tourism film festival, yeah, in Portugal. So I saw that Portugal, can you imagine, very small country, even Spanish before, right? They conquer Philippines for so many years. So you forgot, na? I must study that one. So that's why I remember. So Portugal, they're so small, but they're very creative, yeah, in making the video, the film, etc. So we must learn from them, yeah. I studied the Philippine and Indonesia film production before we were not born yet, yeah, because I noticed that in 1952 there is this Rodrigo de Villa film, yeah. It is a co-production between the Philippines and Indonesia, because during that time Philippines is a very innovative, and you already have the color of film, etc. So we learn from Philippines. And then 1953 there's Leilani, and 1962 this is very interesting because Holiday in Bali. So that was already the movie. So maybe we can what's that thing about, because we have to merge between the film and the music, etc., right, and the culture itself. So we can start from there by so that especially empowering the Gen Z, because the Gen Z are the one very technical savvy, and they like to do the content creator, etc. So and then they're I think they like to challenge, yeah, not the older generation, yeah, the mga aging people. Yeah. So we must empower them, yeah. Then yeah, but we have to coach them, because the newer generation, sometimes they don't know, or they are not yet familiar with how to behave, yeah, because we are in Asian country. We have to respect the higher ranking, etc. We need to coach them. Don't blame them if they are out of the box, yeah. But we need them, because the older generation usually they don't want to try something new. I think that would be enough.
A round of applause for Dr. Yankee. Just give us, bringing us some of the insights you've gathered from the community, and thank you for sharing that. And it's important to really make sure that we are our ability to understand dynamics between leadership and the community is intact. Thank you very much. For the information of everybody, the Department of Trade and Industry and the Philippine government is currently in the final stage of making sure that we're able to have our official creative economy statistics. We've been doing this quite time. It was mentioned by Director Ayu that in her office, in her capacity as the Director for Strategic Review, it's very important to have strategic data, and you proceed to the review process, and that's the only time that you will be able to have strategic insights. But then in the Philippines, while we understand there are so many studies, like as presented by Sir Jonathan, we all have perception surveys, we have university-led research projects, but the DTI and the government would like to have and ensure that we have a national statistics, and it should be within an international standard. And that's why we invited the Philippine Statistics Authority through Sir Gerald to give us some of the things that we're doing and how valuable it is to have a nationally designated statistics on creative economy. Sir Gerald?
Yeah, thank you very much, AD Jodan, and of course, thank you for inviting the Philippine Statistics Authority in this forum. We're happy to share our experience also on the part of the Philippines, and share it and learn also from our counterpart in Indonesia. Right now, of course, us, the Philippine Statistics Authority, being the central statistics authority of the country, we are here to provide, of course, measure of the creative economy. But of course, when we talk about measure, we need to have some basis. So that's why we have this notion of having it link or being consistent with our system of national accounts. So we have this system of national accounts, like what we do when we compile our gross domestic product in terms of measuring the economic performance of the country. So our effort in terms of doing this creative economy, we have this satellite account in the Philippines. So we call it the Philippine Creative Economy Satellite Account. So we are, in a way, of course, obliged to produce these statistics because we already have this law signed way back in 2022. But our engagement with the DTI started way before 2022. So I remember that's February 2021 when we presented our some statistics related to the creative industry. So from there, we tried to study on how can we come up with this measure, because of course we recognize that there's a strong need for this creative economy satellite account. So that's what the PSA come up with in 2023 when we officially release the satellite account on creative economy. So in the case of a satellite account, it's not the first time of the Philippines doing it. So we have that for the tourism, we have for health, we have some development works on for ocean, for digital economy, and so on. So it's just a matter of really learning from these different satellite accounts and then applying it to this a new emerging satellite account, which is the creative economy. So we are very just responding to the needs. That's what statistics are to address the needs or demands of our stakeholders. That's our role. So we are thankful for this partnership with the Department of Trade and Industry. So right now, it's not stopping on this pilot work that we released in 2023. Actually, this year, we have an update of that satellite account. And right now, we are moving towards coming up with the official definition. Though Sir mentioned a while ago about being it a challenge. But for us, the challenge is more of having this operational, not the conceptual definition. When we operationalize how we do that, how do we collect that coming or using our surveys, that's really a challenge. How to classify these different industries. So that's our work right now. That's our direction. So hopefully we can have that be finalized by this year. I'm hopeful also, so that we could have a better, of course, or firmer satellite account for the creative industry. Thank you.
That's why we really would thank this roundtable discussion. Thanks to our PTIC Jakarta and our Embassy of Indonesia and our FTSC, because we're getting insights, as mentioned by Gerald. We are now moving towards finalizing our definition. When I saw Jonathan Tan's long list, a long definition, it kind of reflects or mirrors the way we work. But then when I saw the presentation this morning, when we look into the documentation side of things, not just from the creation to the production and distribution, and something that we really look forward for the information of everybody, not into the research statistical world. It's very important because, as mentioned, a report with the USIC Vita Eldaba a while back, we already registered about 7.1% of the GDP of the Philippines is contributed by the creative industry, and declaring about 6 to 7 million creative workers in the formal economy. When something is not documented, definitely cannot be managed. And so we really wanted to push for that. And now, in all of this conversation, the Indonesian government has the Ministry of Trade and tourism and creative economy. For sure, we have the ASEAN to look into how we're able to harmonize everything in the ASEAN from 10 to 1 or 11 in the future. And we look at BNILD, at an institution doing their own thing. And you have PSA as an institution surfacing. But we also need the help of international organizations such as British Council. Do you agree? And so we have the country director herself, the first Filipina country director, Ms. Lotus.
A very good segue. I have to tell you, I have 30 slides. Is that okay?
Well, we have all the day. I'm just joking. So let that slide be shared for a minute. While we are pulling up the slide, Ms. Lotus, can you say hi to your followers and your fans?
Good
out there?
afternoon, everyone. So I'm Lotus. So other than the country director, I also I'm an education specialist like JD here. I've been with Department of Education in the past. Thank you so much for inviting us. We were wondering how we became invited in the dialogue when this is UK, when this is Philippine-Indonesia. But of course, as Jonathan was saying,
But Dr. Yankee mentioned Portugal.
Yeah.
So we are becoming international, not just Philippines and Indonesia.
Exactly.
So don't worry, Lotus.
So very inclusive and diverse. So, but the British Council also works regionally. As Jonathan mentioned, we do support the creative economy, working with ASEAN Secretariat. We've had several, I think, events already. I saw you in Jakarta. And of course, our British Council office in Indonesia is also working with the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. In Indonesia, we've been there for 76 years. In the British Council in the Philippines, we've been here 46 years. So we've been around, but certainly not me. But yeah, we've been around. And I'm happy to share, I think just very particularly for this theme of this panel, just the British Council's efforts or initiative that relates generally on the importance of data, insights, research that relates to creative economy. And I'm perhaps providing a very different perspective here because I'll be drawing on our work, of course, with UK and with our partner countries globally. So the British Council is present in over 100 plus countries. So imagine the scope of expertise and insights, local insights we've been getting, particularly because we're based in different countries. So one of the British Council's core strengths is actually our unique blend of expertise because, of course, in the UK, as you know, UK creative economy is a global house in terms of just creative industries. And also the insights that we've been producing over the years, the local studies, scoping studies that drive impactful initiatives and that shape particularly policies. And I'm going to give an example of that later, but also empowering local talents through our grants, our programs, and elevate international understanding of creatives and cultural industries. Excuse me. The British Council's work on creative economy enables creative industries to thrive. So whether that's in Indonesia, in the Philippines, or globally. So of course, we all know this, that the creative economy represents a powerful force of economic and social development. It does not only contribute significantly in terms of economic, global GDP, for instance, but also drive innovation, cultural exchange, community engagement, and creative industries foster economic diversification, create jobs, and enhance nations' global competitiveness. So we've all been talking about this since this morning. But just the UK's creative economy is a testament to this huge potential, creating nearly 1 million jobs with a GVA of 125 billion pounds in 2022. So this morning, I think Yusek Fita's giving all this data, and I was trying to convert that in pounds so to see, how that compares to the UK. The UK's success is driven by its robust support of the arts, culture, and innovation, and comprehensive policy framework that nurtures creative talent. So over the past 20 years, over the past 20 years, the British Council have partnered with over 40 countries, including the Philippines and Indonesia, to champion the creative economy. So the United Nations acknowledged that the creative economy is actually an evolving field. We know this, that can transform societies by promoting sustainable development, inclusivity, and cultural preservation. And as it is an evolving field, it is important, of course, that's been said by some of our colleagues in the panel, that we have to have up-to-date evidence, data, and fresh insights on this very dynamic sector. So one of the three strands of our work in the British Council is around research, insight, and advocacy. So it's a big chunk of our work, which of course inform our work on capacity building, for instance, in terms of leadership and learning trainings, and then of course the entire sector development. Those three strands of our work, I think this the top three and the bottom here, of course, are all equally important, but I do need to emphasize that the research and insights and advocacy, in a way, drives everything of our work. And of course, shape policies and strategies on creative industries from wherever country we work with. So we do scoping study, we do research, we convene creative industries, policy and evidence. Remember PEC? There's a platform called Global Creative Economy Council, where the British Council is a co-convener. And this platform actually is a consortium of creative industry practitioners who talk and discuss how to promote and support the UK creative industries. So the British Council sits in as a convener to that. We contribute to industry events, and of course, importantly, we share our insights, our studies with the UK audience and international audiences like the Philippines. So just to give you an example, this is just after COVID-19, we produced a report called Creative Hubs Resilience, and this is a report that only in Southeast Asian region that focused on the impact of pandemic on creative hubs. And the report identified key elements that added creative value and improved the resilience of the creative hubs during the pandemic, and which then informs, of course, creative hubs and how they move forward and recover from pandemic. But for the British Council, that report also informs our work and how we could support some more of these creative hubs. That's one. The other one is a particular report, a very insightful report, which is called Creative Enterprise Inclusive Growth in the Philippines, published in 2020. And it has provided evidence and better understanding of how the Philippines creative industries operate and challenges that prevent them from realizing their full potential. I believe this study also informs the PCIDA, because at that time, there's very little report really in the Philippines in terms of creative industries. So the study produced new and relevant data that enabled us to better understand the trends and the impact of this sector to the Philippines, growth. And so, as I've mentioned, our data, our work relies heavily on data and insights that we have locally. And so even working regionally, as I've been mentioning, our work with ASEAN, the ASEAN-UK Advancing Creative Economy, ACE, as an acronym in the British Council, is called ACE, which aims to strengthen the capacity of policymakers and practitioners to enhance the quality and diversity of festivals within the region, amplify cultural exchanges and collaboration between the UK and ASEAN member states, and again, provide insights and research into ASEAN arts and creative sectors. So Jonathan was mentioning about the perception survey. So that will, provide data again that will be very useful in how to promote and advance the ASEAN creative industries. Our program for policymakers on creative industries is committed to capacitating and empowering creative professionals and policymakers. This is a program that we will be doing in September, and this is an online learning program for policymakers working in the creative economy, and which was developed based on needs. Again, data from needs assessment done in 2022. So we will work with DTI for this delivery of this program, and the course will have different modules, one of which is a critical one, is on data collection and measurement in creative industries. So just in terms of lastly, I think we haven't moved our slides. I have like 28 more. Okay, so we'll go now, I think, in the one on the MOU. So in terms of just on the sector development, we work with governments, and just to flag, see, I have picture there. So just to flag that we, of course, have a partnership with DTI, a 3-year MOU, which include, again, what I'm mentioning about a policymaker training, but also part of this collaboration is the mission visits that Congressman Tofte Venecia was talking about this morning. And the two mission visits, one last year and this year, which then started discussions around placemaking, cities of culture, and then festivals, and then we'll now have the Creative Nations Summit, which is to be held in September 30. Yes. So again, so we're looking forward to these events that we'll be having with DTA and of course NCCA as well. But just to conclude my presentation, the examples I've given on initiatives illustrate just a fraction of our extensive work in the creative industry. And at the British Council, we harness our diverse networks, which then gives us the data, which then gives us the insights, exchanges knowledge, and then all towards advancing a thriving creative industry. Thank you.
Oh, lovely. What a presentation on how, while Philippines and Indonesia are thriving to become a nationally driven creative economy industries, we see that we are global countries. And the ASEAN, as you see, and was privileged to be part of the UK mission for creative industry. And I think the things that have been presented are really the kind of programs that we're also working with the DTI. So we thank the British Council for making sure that those programs are funded, organized, and co-created and co-managed in the process. I think this time around, since the topic is actually creative economy research, and we have already provided the much needed groundwork wherein how important data could be, how insights are actually manifested, and how we're able to make sure that sustainability framework, the way we see culture pivotal in all of this conversation, and how international organizations such as British Councils are helping each of our nations to propel and advance its creative agenda. I think we have to ask the question, and we start with Chancellor Ben-Hur with the question, how much research do we need? And if we continue to discuss creative economy research, as there's such point in time of the creative economy that research, we go beyond research, or research will always be a way of life in pushing the agenda of creative industry?
All right. For the creative, of course, understand that there are a number of types of research that you have to do. All of us are probably exposed to the usual research in universities where you talk about scholarly research, and most of it's either scholarly research or action research. This particular area, the creative economies area, you have to use another type of research, which is practice-led or practice-based, which means output comes first before then you try to But that's the problem right now. We're at a point where it's a nascent area, at least for schools in the country. It's an upcoming area. We're in schools themselves, like us. Benil has a problem with that one because we now have issues about valuing output or research output of our creatives faculty. So how can we use them now for promotion? So we can't even promote our own faculty who develop creative works. So we don't have that framework. So we have undergone a few years back a process wherein we have already defined our framework for valuing these kinds of outputs. And that's hard. And I'm not sure if most of the schools who want to get into this have that framework already. And of course, we're in the process of actually just adopting it for our faculty members. So bottom line, sir, just to answer your question, we are starting now. We look to University of the Philippines, hopefully, but I'm glad that also our Indonesian partners, even the British Council, have data. That's one. So first, we need to understand that most of the existing research out there for the creatives industry is really more on practice-based, not too much on the scholarly ones.
So it's practice-led and practice-based.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So now we have to start moving towards scholarly work, so that because that kind of adds value also. For example, I was just talking to my colleague here who a finance guy, but now is actually into film. Part of the research is also now looking at, okay, this particular industry, what can we do, or what research can we provide so that they can actually understand where they need to go. Where do we need to grow in terms, where we need to invest, what are our neighbors doing. So we need that kind of research. So it's now, you're now taking the research out of the individual.
This story is not just Benilde, Chancellor. You also feel that this is also shared with the rest of the community in the
Not
Philippines.
yet, sir. That is why we need to start advocating for this one.
Okay.
Because one school or a couple of schools will not be able, UP will not be able to do it alone. Culture is national. All right. Yes, we're regional, but if we want to build something like this, you have to think of it on a national scale. So it cannot be individualistic. So we as academicians have to bind together for Filipinos. We have to bind together and make sure that we are implementing the similar frameworks across all schools.
Speaking of academician, I will bring in Dr.
Yes, sir.
Yanke in the conversation. Dr. Yanke,
Yes, sir.
how's University of Indonesia faring with regard to, how institutions, but you pointed out very well as a traveling professor and a community-driven type or a professor inside generation. How do you respond to this kind of request of a practice-led and practice-based type of research, without disregarding the scholarly research that they have been mentioned?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, practice-led is very, very important, because or else it will just be stuck in the, just being cited, but only for the academician, but not impactful to the community. So in Indonesia, we already have this kind of like practice. I think one semester for the practice to go to the industry or to the field, and then make a report, and then it will be graded. That's already, we already start doing it. Even we also study benchmarking in other school abroad. We do that so that when we go back, we bring the student can share with the other student how they learn
What's
from
your
each other.
experience, Dr. Yanke? Because we have 7,000 islands. You have 17,000 islands, right?
17,000.
You can just imagine when you talk about community-based research and all. How do you do that with all the 17,000 islands you have?
Of course, if we want to travel to one place to Indonesia, I think 1 year is not enough, right? Even in 7,000 island, it won't enough. So yeah, of course we have to spread. Yeah, like I have a friend in Gajah Mada, University of Gajah Mada in Jakarta. They do it. They define, or they ask the student. Sometimes the student, they come from different province, right? So they have to go back to the province and then do something to their province. Exploring the challenge, etc. And then do something good with the community. So and then they have to video it, and then later on it will be reviewed by the
At
professor,
least there's a
etc.
sense of representativeness of those provinces and islands.
Yeah.
I'm bringing in Director Ayu because I know that the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy is also having some polytechnics. And I think that's how we now bridge the government down to the academic ecosystem. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, this is what we call, again, the pentahelix is our soul here. So because in this pentahelix, the government and also the academician work back to back to put a lot of energy on how the policy data-driven making. And then we also navigating our policy direction towards, of course, productivity and inclusivity and sustainability. So the research has to be sustained. Don't just hit and run research. And for the academic, for example, just to pass through the step. Exactly, go to Scopus only, and then that's it.
For context, Director Ayu, when you say research, as far as the ministry is concerned, what particular research are we talking about?
Yeah, this is the creative economy research here, what I'm talking about. And creative economy cannot be divided into from tourism, actually, because Ibu Yangki has already mentioned that we have, you already mentioned that we have 17,000 islands, right? So if we travel through these 17,000 islands in Indonesia, you have to have 37 years actually. And by that, that time, in every destination that we pass through in Indonesia, in 17,000 islands, that we have more than 17,000 islands, we have a lot of creative economy potentials, right, that we have to explore. Therefore, we need the review, strategic review. What is the best potential that we have? Then by knowing that, we can make right policy. So everything starts from the research.
Yeah, thank you very much for overemphasizing the value chain and the way we do things. I can imagine your 17,000 islands. I have about 7,000, and we have Jonathan here who's actually working for the entire 10 countries to travel all of the islands in the 10. I'm just kidding. We're now working how. There's a question, Sir Jonathan. I keep on receiving this every time that I travel from one province to another. It's a question about: is there a need for us to really harmonize definition, harmonize research, harmonize everything for the sake of one ASEAN? I mean, I don't know if you're getting offended by that question, but we have to discuss this at some point in time, whether or not do we really need to have one ASEAN creative economy, and what do you mean by one ASEAN economy? Should it be that we subscribe to one definition? Just to have a context, Sir Jonathan, in the Philippines, we're even asked to really see, is that the definition of the Philippine creative economy? That is not inclusive, that is not representative of our culture and all. And imagine how all this kind of discussion within the country is already problematic and stressful at times. And imagine it bringing down to the ASEAN level. So may I hear your personal or professional thoughts about this, Jonathan?
Thank you for the very good, challenging question there. Well, I think that the reason why it stands to reason why we need to harmonize things. It's not just in the name of unity. I think that it's just not the main purpose here. I think the purpose here, especially when we talk about the creative economy, is that if only that we are able to harmonize the classifications, even starting with definitions, the classifications, then we can have more meaningful data analysis, right? Comparative data analysis. And I think that's very important. And I would like to just also highlight here that there are certainly emerging trends out there that we need to have more meaningful research and development that has the data to back it up. And backing it up is not just for the sake of just having data. What we need is really not only to just develop more evidence-based monitoring and evaluation, put that in place, but with that itself, in turn, we are also trying to generate a more compelling narrative about the potential of the creative economy with the purpose of directing public and private investments into the sector. And I think that's the key. And I would also like to highlight here that we are now seeing that there's an intersection of creative industries amongst the subsectors. Like, for example, one concrete example I could use here would be that in the gaming industry, we are seeing that music producers are also being able to accrue a potential stream of revenue in the gaming industry, yes, because creating music for the games. And that we are also seeing a nexus between cultural services and health and well-being. Yeah. And because of that, I think it's very important that the research and development needs to keep abreast of that as well. And I would like to add to Chancellor's that very valid point about practice-led and practice-based research, by also saying that we also need to take a more targeted issue-based approach and research, because there are just so many policy areas that you need to look at. It's very important that perhaps you also want to take a more issue-based approach to really target perhaps some low-lying fruits that you want to research on, and then from there, concretize and cement the foundation for more for other types of research. And one other thing I want to also highlight here is that data science and behavioral science should also play a very integral role in this research as well, because we want the boundaries between producers and consumers of creative goods and services are blurring.
Yeah.
right? Because many of us who are consumers of creative goods and services, we are possibly established, hopeful, or aspiring creative content makers ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that we need to be able to use data science and behavioral science to also capture that.
Yeah, it's wonderful to put that out, Jonathan, because there's a need for us to look at things at a granular level while maintaining the momentum. Because if we follow the framework or model of issue-based research, then research will always be needed as long as there will be issues. But speaking of harmonized definition or harmonized way of looking at creative economy, I would like to ask Gerald and perhaps share, because there are a lot of questions with regard to why is there a need for us to conform with international standards with regard to us getting into the creative statistics, because we were even asked in the board when we presented the definition and the way we will create the system and classification. And where do you get that idea of this definition? And we mentioned about the WIPO, the DCMS, the UNESCO, the UNCTAD, and so many scholars out there. But we were asked to also at some point, there's a need to have a Philippine base only. This is for purposes of the Philippines use only. Why is it that really come up with a system which is robust enough and accurate and it could be shared to the world? Why is it that very important, Sir Gerald?
Yeah, it's more of basically it's more of comparability. When you have this system, you follow an internationally agreed framework, so you can compare one economy to another economy or one country to another. So basically that's the purpose. But when you look at the UN frameworks, it says there it's just guidelines really. So the idea of this information that we do, like we compile statistics, is really for immediate need of the country. Basically, that's the main purpose. The secondary would be, of course, comparison with other countries. So we can always compare. We can always there will always be a technique, so that we could come up with estimates that will be comparable with other economies. But of course, at first, since when we do statistics, our immediate our immediate concern really is for the country, for the need of the country. So secondary for the
it's good thing that you mentioned
comparison.
about comparison, because if you could remember the slides a while back with comparing the Philippines' performance in export and import, and you can probably see that the Indonesia is strong at this area and then the Philippines is strong at this area. I think this is where collaborations come in. And this is the time that I will invite my dear Lotus to look into the collaboration aspect of research. Do you think what would be the essential elements for a very good collaboration as far as creative economy research is concerned?
Okay, I think we all recognize that there's economic and social aspects of creative economy, and we need those data to kind of justify why we're promoting and we're advancing, a creative economy, just in terms of the economic contributions. But also, as Congressman Toff was saying this morning, is also how creative economy impacts on different levels: social life, health, for instance, and mental well-being. So I think to your question, I think there are opportunities, because I do agree, and I wanted to draw again on what Ben Hart said a while ago about really the weaknesses in terms of data, in terms of research done on these creative industries. This is also a sentiment from the British Council that, we've been partnering with DTI, with the OST, even with the OST. They have specific facility for creative economy, funding for arts, but actually very little take up. And why? Universities always apply for STEM-related research collaborations.
For those who are listening online, there's a British Council saying that not much of a take-up on arts-related.
It's true, and it's also for us, because we do have, for instance, we have CTC with the Connections to Culture grant programs, and that grant also can be used for research on very particular purpose in terms of promoting a particular area.
I think it's a good thing that Lotus mentioned that, because a lot of institutions were always asking me, we don't have funding for research and we cannot do and help DTI. But then it's so surprising that you have a number of funding mechanisms.
So my colleague there, Andre, hi. So Andre could also attest to very little take-up for us in terms of just particular research on creatives and arts. And why? It's because I don't know whether there's little interest or there's people more, I think researchers are very mostly focused on STEM-related fields. So what we've been doing at the British Council is really going out of Metro Manila.
But how do you encourage academician, research community to take a look at an emerging creative industry as a research arena?
What we've been thinking about is why either it's lack of information that there is opportunity.
Okay.
Second, there is maybe lack of capacity in terms of pitching themselves on how to get these grants.
But this roundtable definitely gives them a very strong
Yeah.
idea that it's something amazing to work on in
Oh,
the research.
exactly. And what we were saying, I mean, Yusek Vita, I'll talk about this before, about possibly getting more researchers immersed into, creative economy and see opportunities for research, because creative economy is a very rich area for research. But it's not as prolific as that of others.
Thank you, Lotus. I'm holding on, Sir Jonathan. What's the research culture in ASEAN? Because I will be asking later on how University of Indonesia will share with BNILD and the rest of the Philippine universities. But since you've been working as ASEAN Secretary and all, you can feel the way we help each other in terms of sharing, because there's also a culture of not sharing and culture of sharing. But as far as you're concerned, in ASEAN, do we have the culture of research, or has there been a number of programs in ASEAN level in terms of research collaboration?
I think that certainly there is a high level of research culture within ASEAN itself, but it depends on the sectors that you're really talking about. But really from the ASEAN Secretariat, where it comes to research, because we are very lean, every divisions are very lean. So there are two ways that we do the research. Of course, we do our own in-house, which is very much desktop engagement with experts and all that. But we also outsource.
Okay.
Yeah, to academics, consultants, practitioners, and all that. And I would say that many of which are being outsourced out there. There was some discussions back a few years ago that we were thinking about setting up a regional think tank that is just right beside us, at ASEAN Secretariat. But the discussion hasn't, I think the idea is just ahead of its time. Because one thing that we found is that the risk and the downside of outsourcing research to consultants, be it practitioners or academics, they may not necessarily understand the way ASEAN work and the developments. And sometimes the quality of the consultancy may not be really quite up there.
Okay.
And therefore, the research itself don't fully realize its potential in serving the needs. And therefore, there was that thinking about setting up a regional think tank. But of course, we are leveraging on what is out there. And I think that, as I mentioned, I think in Indonesia, there's that effort to have a regional research network of different researchers, think tanks coming together for the creative economy led by Ibu Tita. And I'm hoping that that's something that would set it in the right direction going forward.
Yeah, for Director Ayu, do you have any official or national funding mechanism for researcher? I wonder because in DTI we are in the verge of coming up with mechanisms, funding support or financing support for research work. But we will don't reinventing the wheel. Maybe there are already good practices that your MTCE has been doing. Can you share with us?
Yeah, actually, Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy works back to back with national agency, National Research and Innovation Agency, Indonesia Research and Innovation Agency, that they have the funding, of course, and also from the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, we have the slight, a little funding to do this kind of creative economy
How little
research.
is little? I'm just
Not
kidding.
say.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and then of course we work together with international institutions
Yeah.
like
so it's
World
a
Bank and
co-funded mechanisms.
exactly,
and
co-funded mechanism.
Good. We have gotten so many inputs from the panel. Maybe some of you are now triggered by some, compelling questions to our panel. No, parang There's so many information going on, but at least we have that understanding at the Indonesian level, national level, ASEAN, even in the UK through the British. We're now opening the floor for questions. I see two gentlemen. Can we start with attorney from Asian Institute of Management, then followed by you, sir? Quickly. You can please tell us about yourself, and you may direct your question to a specific member of the panel.
Thanks, JD. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jox Dilag. I'm from Bughao Creative Collective, as well as Asian Institute of Management. We have our research arm, Bridge Creatives. We are a research institute and think tank specifically focusing on the creative industry and innovation. So one of the things that we found also as a challenge in the Philippines is collecting data and gathering research. When we were doing our startup write-up early 2022, it was very difficult to get information about the creative industry. And our source actually is the British Council for information about what's happening in the country.
So
And
definitely Lotus will not be asked here. She's been helpful.
yes. So one of the things, and this is the reason why we set up Bridge Creatives in order to gather more information. Because one of the things we found out is that there are a lot of academic research being stuck in libraries of higher education institutions that focuses on creative output, which we think and we see that has the potential of being commercialized and being shared to industry so that it can be included in the factors of production that we have in the country. So my question would be more targeted to the ASEAN region, to Sir Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Would there be best case practices that you could share on how to further harness these research? Because we see that as one of the things that are not as exciting for these institutions to share because they're more focused nga on the STEM, the science and technology aspect and research output rather than the creative research output. So maybe that's something that we would want to hear because that's also what we want to also communicate to our partner institutions.
Is it the problem, Sir Jonathan, to about incentive-based type of system for research work to bridge? Is this something that we are looking at the ASEAN level?
You just gave me the idea. And I think we have the British Council here, which UK has really been a very strong partner and supporter. And we hope that what has just been mentioned about the ACE initiative is just the start of a beautiful journey to come, especially in augmenting research and development. I can't quite adequately answer your question there. I have to be very honest. I think where we are at right now, I think that we are still, first of all, I think that we are not also able to codify whatever research that is out there, in the region. But I think what we want to do, and I think that I do agree with Chancellor who mentioned that the need for practice-led and practice-based research, I think that's really the way to go. And I would also say that identifying the subsectors that perhaps needs further research and development there, and the intersections between these subsectors, which I think will certainly be the one that amplify the impact and the scalability as well. And that's where I think the research is needed. But where to incentivize this research, yes, we do look to dialogue partners, such as the UK, to incentivize such research. The other way that we are trying to facilitate that is, of course, through roundtable discussions like this. In fact, the ASEAN Secretariat is now in coordination with Malaysia, who is our incoming chair for the culture and arts. We are going to convene a symposium on creative economy, and I'm looking to the UK through the British Council for funding in this regard. Also to do up the, for two reasons. One, to amplify the impact and awareness of knowledge about creative economy potential and contributions to the region. The other one is really to workshop on the sustainability framework that I just mentioned earlier. And I think that we hope that through such regular conversations, we are able to keep this top of mind on all the stakeholders. And we are talking about a vast array of stakeholders here. And therefore, I think that it's very important that such forums and engagements must be regularized, doing it as often as you can. speaking and engaging very different stakeholders. Yeah. Thank you.
In the answering portion, British Council was mentioned twice. I think 3 times. So
Yes.
we have to hear from Lotus. Have a lot of applause for Jonathan for answering that for ASEAN, but giving the floor
Hello.
to British Council.
Yeah, I can't just help but respond because I was nodding when you were asking that questions because I think that's a very particular weakness in the Philippines is the commercialization. I'm not sure this is just Philippines actually, but I wanted to just flag, not just in creative industries, but generally the commercialization and tech transfer is really needing a lot more improvement in terms of the Philippines. So we the British Council, and sorry, this is not ASEAN-wide, but the Philippines, the British Council in the Philippines, we started working with the OST in developing a holistic technology transfer framework that would inform their guidelines on granting projects.
That could be problematic because for those who are doing research and all, their intellectual properties, that's good that we have the Deputy Director General of Intellectual Property Office here in the Philippines because in this particular story, a lot of researchers don't want to be producing or sharing because of the intellectual property issue.
Or they don't know actually.
Or they don't know how to do that.
And
that's something that it's good that you're working with the OST
yeah,
also.
so what the intention is to create this framework for the OST that would then dictate how the funding mechanisms for their grants, for instance, grants for research on creative, for instance, on area of creative economy. So I'm really excited about that because it could be a really game changer for the entire sector because of commercialization, huge opportunities, but of course, not all are very capacitated.
Watch out for our Deputy Director General would like to share before we give Ms. To respond to this conversation.
Yes. Good afternoon. I just would like to chime in because I actually agree that on the commercialization side, we are quite weak. And like, for instance, I've always been saying in IPOPhil, because I'm relatively new, we have to make IP sexier in the sense that people would learn to appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Why even registration is something that needs to be done if they want to really be able to capitalize on the work that they do. But I really hope that I would have a chance to also have deeper conversations with the British Council because our emphasis at this point is really IP valuation and commercialization because we know that for an idea to be able to benefit the world,
Yes.
you will have to put that connector, which is valuation,
Okay.
to be able to value it better so that the licensing agreements would also be fair to the creators, and commercialization, which allows it to be sold to the world. So I hope that you will not only look at the OST as a partner and probably would also look our side. We are quite near.
We're now
And I'm
signing an
luckily here.
unofficial memorandum of
Yes.
understanding between
And
British Council
yes,
and IPOPhil.
thank you, but hopefully we'll be able to
Thank you for
to-
enriching the conversation, DDG.
Yes, that's why we are here. We're always
you
here
very-
when
thank you very-
DTI invites us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. We now proceed to the second one, and before we end the panel, we'll hear from you.
Good afternoon. My name is Elaine Camiling. I serve as the chairperson of the Creative Industries Management Program in Benilde, where Chancellor Ben-Hur is leading us. No? So in the field, I'm also a practitioner, I'm a curator and a writer. So our program is somehow new. It started as an arts management program in the 90s, but we introduced it, got an approval from the Commission on Higher Education in 2023 to be a creative industries management program. So I've also want to chime in about Lotus mention about connections through culture grant because I think 2 to 3 years ago there were 3 of us faculty members who were able to receive a grant from the British Council about arts and cultural philanthropy in the Philippines. It was with Dindin Araneta and Lester Owen Go, so the 3 of us. Thank you. My question is for colleagues from, or those who work in Indonesia, Director Rahayu and Dr. Harty Hasti. Because I'm very much interested in knowledge production, how it actually shapes, intersects, informs circulation of this and artistic and creative practice. My question is about legitimization of the discipline, perhaps creative economy. Sorry, I lost my thought. Legitimization of the discipline. How are academic institutions tackling creative economy as a topic, course, discipline through related degree programs in Indonesia? Second question is, how do Indonesian universities innovate in terms of teaching this learning and instruction on creative industries, for instance, since there are many congruences between Philippines and Indonesia, history, culture, and etc. I asked also to somehow have an idea on possible entry points for collaborative initiatives such as research programs between academics who also come from artistic and creative practices in both Indonesia and the Philippines. Thank
Sorry,
you.
Dr. Yangke, it could be another panel discussion with all those questions, but we'll try to see how we quickly run to that as far as Universitas, the Indonesia is concerned, and your personal view of these things in terms of teaching and appreciating creative industry.
Thank you. What a challenge. Okay, so how to integrate the creative economy or industry in the degree, right? Yeah, we have a different level. What's that? So in University of Indonesia, our creative economy or creative industry, it's in the vocational program. Well, in other university, they are in the faculty level. Yeah, so it depends on because in the University of Indonesia, we want to deal more with the industry, so that, you know, more on the practice level, right? Because if it is on a faculty, it's higher, usually more on the theory, and then maybe the students also not very interested to deal with the industry. So that's why I look at it, that's already very fine, yeah. Because it's the link and match. The link and match should be there, yeah. So of course we have with that kind of thing that we have a lot of collaboration with the industry, the business player, yeah, and then the professor also, or the lecturer, they also have to have an experience, yeah. So it has a mixture. We also have visiting professor. So aside from the theory, so that it's a blend. Because or else it's not going to be impactful to the community. And then the history, what's about this? Because you have a lot of challenging.
Because there are congruences between Indonesia and Philippines, right? So
Again?
Just a general question on how do these universities innovate and tackle creative economy, perhaps as a topic, discipline, course. I mentioned histories and cultures just to refer to these congruences between two countries like Philippines and Indonesia.
Wait, I still don't get it.
Yeah, but thank you for answering, Doctor. You mentioned workshops, visiting faculty. How about...
Yeah, it's almost the same platform actually with what academician going through about this, what is it, how to integrate, right? So in terms of Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, I mean, on the government level, we build stronger connection to integrate this with the various platforms, like, for example, World Conference Creative Economy that will be held in October 2nd to 4th in Uzbekistan. That's initiated by Indonesia government, actually. And then maybe for with the digital collaboration hubs and all, you know, so we can integrate. And also we have a School of Creative Economy, is it Pak Ricky, di Bali, in Bali. Yeah, there's a vocational institution already in Bali that really integrate this kind of academic creative economy program with the industry-led initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're done because we still have the next panel who could give us more, shed lights to the concept of creativity. Can we have a round of applause for Chancellor Ong, Director IU here, We have Jonathan from the ASEAN, Director Yankee from the University of Indonesia, of course from the Philippine Statistics Authority, Gerald, and my very good friend Lotus from the British Council. It has been a wonderful afternoon with you. I hope that you enjoyed insightful conversation and some provocative questions and answers from the panel. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po. Picture.
Panelists, may I request you to pose for a photo? While they're taking their photos, I would just like to announce that our afternoon snacks are available outside, so please feel free to get some refreshments. So we will have a working break